Let's start from introducing yourself, please. Markian, could you please tell a few words about yourself and why we decided to make this public talk from Brushfam side?
Gladly. So, my name is Markian. I am the CEO and founder of Brushfam and 727 Ventures. And as you all know, Brushfam is heavily focused in Polkadot space and especially into smart contracts world. And I think the long-awaited Inc. 4 release is a big event that we all have been waiting for, especially in the Astar Olive Zero and Fala ecosystems that heavily use Inc. And I think this big event decides big attention and discussions and conversations and PR around it to make everyone aware of what's now, what's the status now of the ecosystem, whether it's ready, how much it's ready, how it can be used and leveraged, and so on. So I think the more we talk, because it's important from the dev side, it's important for the ecosystem to be ready, but it's as much important for the businesses to understand that the ecosystem is ready and it can be leveraged and can be used.
Thank you, Markian. Today also we have a parity team here. Hernando, could you please introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey, morning everyone. So I'm Fernando. I'm one of the core developers at Parity working on Inc. And it's actually pretty funny because I guess for the last few months, the team and I have been heads down, just kind of like looking at the code, thinking about these issues, and we don't often pop our head out to see what the community's up to. And it came to me as a bit of a surprise that there were so many people on the sidelines, like excited for this Inc. release. So yeah, I'm like very happy to see, so many people here and seeing the community engaged.
Thank you for coming. Inc.
We're
4
happy,
release was,
happy
yeah.
to have you on the talk.
Yes, that's true, because the community was waiting for the Inc. 4 release. That's the big event for us. So, Bill, could you please introduce yourself to people who doesn't know you yet?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bill Laboon. I'm the head of education and grants at Web3 Foundation. You've probably seen my Polkadot digests out there on Twitter and a variety of other places as well. I'm also very excited about Inc. 4.0. And talking today a little bit about how Web3 Foundation, why we're interested in Inc., why we're supporting it, and some things that people may be interested in if they're looking for grants or other support for developing their own Inc. projects or working in the ecosystem in general.
Thank you so much. And let's continue with the Star team.
Hello, I'm Pierre, developer in Astar, Rust developer. I'm mainly focused on what is Inc. in Astar, WASM focused, and really excited to be here. I think there is all people I'm of community I'm working here with, so Hernando and Dominic. I see you code every day, so happy to be here. And Inc. 4.0 was really awaited on Astar side because it's finally production ready and fully audited. So now we will see a real use case in production.
Thank you, Pierre. Welcome. And Olive Zero team is also here with us. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, so my name is Mateusz. I'm a core developer at Aleph Zero. I wear various hats, but recently I've been working on Inc. Smart contracts, migration from Inc. 3 to Inc. 4, contracts, tooling around it, deployment, etc. Yes, glad to see you all here. Hello.
Thank you so much. So welcome, guys, and now we can start. And I would like to push the discussion from the main question. What does a release of Inc. 4 means for the ecosystem from tech perspective?
Yeah, so maybe let me start and give you just a rundown of what is encompassed in Inc. 4. So Inc. 4 is really our push to get production-ready smart contracts. And to do that, we've made a few improvements to the developer like experience. So one of the first things is some storage improvements, which were actually so the main gist of Ink 4 is being production ready. So there's a couple improvements there. So the first one is actually contributed by a super colony contributor called xgreenx, and it has to do with our storage. So in Ink 3, we had some very clever storage abstractions, but for production use cases, this was too big. The contracts were too big. This meant executing them was too expensive. So Green came, landed us this very nice PR and reduced the size of contracts. All right, for users, this means cheaper gas costs. The next thing we added was an end-to-end testing framework, which will improve the developer experience. As a developer, you can now have much more confidence that the code you're writing is doing what you intended it to do. And the nice thing about this is that it's all built in natively into Rust. There's no need to go to some obscure JavaScript framework to test your code. You can stay in the same context and just continue working, continue that same flow of development. We also made some more metadata improvements. This gives developers the ability to have more expressive error handling. It gives third-party tooling more information to do things like verifiable builds, which is super important from like a safety and user experience point of view. And then we also have this stable ABI. So in short, that means that there's some guarantees around how your code behaves after it's been deployed on chain. So if you deploy a contract with Ink 4 and we release like Ink, let's say 4.5, your contract will still be compatible on chain. So that's a really nice guarantee for deploying to production. We also have some improvements around our developer tooling, so Cargo Contract, making it easier for developers to interact with contracts using a CLI interface, which means you can script integration tests or script your development workflow. Again, everything focused on being production ready.
Yes, thank you so much. Markian, maybe you will tell a secret for some part of an audience about how we are going to improve ink market from the tech perspective in the nearest future.
Yeah, well, we have a lot of different plans. As you all know, we are a heavy contributor to Ink, and by the way, thanks Renato for mentioning Green. I know very well that story about storage refactoring, and I remember discussing it personally with Green, as we were like thinking on what else is stopping Ink from being production ready, and this was one of the heavy things. And I said to Green, we have to do that, and we did it. And also I wanted to thank to the whole Parity Inc. team for the heavy job. I think one of the things that really differentiate Polkadot from the other ecosystem is that behind Polkadot, the old tech is really soundproof. It's tested. It may not evolve like as speedy as you would expect it, but when it's released, you can really know that it's soundproof, and I think this is really great. Uh, and yeah, extending this topic a bit, um, I think from a business perspective, this is really important event to have the info released and to have this just as a message that now this technology is ready. And for the business ecosystems, I think it will mean that far more people will now start development on Ink. And yeah, I think this release, it starts a new era in the Ink ecosystem world.
Thank you, Markian. I'm not a speaker but moderator today, but I would like to add like one more announcement that we are working on Ink Hackathon. Its name will be Wink Hackathon, like Wasm and Ink together, and it's planned to happen in the end of May. We are working on proposal now, so we hope to get the community support, and we are going to empower Ink market. Soon you will see the proposal of chain on voting and discussion, so I will be waiting for your feedbacks. and our team also. Talking about Ink 4 meaning for the business and for the ecosystem in general, I would like to ask maybe guys, Astara Live Zero team, I know that you are developers, but I think you could share with us your plans about developing your companies using Ink 4 and how it will influence your business.
Yeah, I can start. Um, for over the last year, even when before Ink 4.0 went out, we have seen like really the audience for Ink was growing and growing, and we were part in different hackathon. And maybe 1 year ago there was like one or two or three submission, but it was still like a bit more. And now in the Europe hackathon held by Polkadot, we have seen like a 20 submission. So I think that there was way more team that is interesting about building in Ink. But of course, what was refraining us from really going in, it was because first it's a bit complex to handle Ink, and second is that even though they were like ready to deploy, Ink 4.0 production ready was not ready, and also there were no pallet contracts on a live environment. But right now, I think Ink 4.0 really build a new hype because people know that if they start building in Ink right now, so they can start within hackathon or within themselves, they know that they will have a door to deploy on production.
Yeah, so in Aleph Zero case, it's similar. So we've had a couple of hackathons. We have a couple of external teams building contracts. We have zero domains and some metaverse project called Darkverse. They were all waiting, or they've been waiting for Ink 4 release. As of right now, the Aleph Zero mainnet does not have a palette contracts because we've been waiting for the stable release of Ink since we were not really we were not able uh, to promise the teams that the Ink 3 to Ink 4 migration would be backwards compatible. So we didn't want to risk going to mainnet with Ink 3. So right now, the release of stable Ink is opening up the doors for that pilot contract deployment to mainnet and allowing us and these external teams to start to migrating from testnets since the contracts are on testnet now to the mainnet and to the production. And internally, we've also have a couple of projects in the pipeline that are waiting for that Ink 4 on mainnet to happen. So the stable release of Ink is really unblocking our work, and we can't wait to get smart contracts mainnet now.
Yes, thank you. I agree that Ink 4 is like huge step for business in the ecosystem, but also to make it like really successful and really huge, we should create necessary infrastructure. And today, Bill is with us from Web3 Foundation side to tell us more about how Web3 Foundation supports infrastructure products and Ink itself.
Yeah. Excuse me. Of course, I had to cough as soon as it was my turn to talk. So we have supported like quite a few different ecosystem, infrastructure projects that help Ink. So obviously, Brushfam has been the recipient of several grants, and they've done some amazing things. Like with OpenBrush and especially XGreenX. And I'm sorry, I feel I've met him in real life and I can't remember his actual name. I just know him from his GitHub handle.
He doesn't
And
have
also,
an actual name. It's just green. Don't worry about it.
He's just green. Okay, great.
It's how we call him usually in the team. It's Green.
Okay, all right, great. So,
but his name is Anatoly. Just for there is a name.
Okay, all right. Glad he does have a real name and he's not just an AI. Yeah, and Soul to Ink. We've seen some. Yeah, Solidity to Ink transpiler. The Ink playground that Astar has done. You actually, if you look through our the Web3 grants program, grants.web3.foundation, just do a search for Ink, and you'll see quite a few Ink projects that we have that we've funded. We also have a few RFPs out there for things like an Ink Explorer. But I would say if anyone is interested in working with Ink, you're not looking to either if you're looking to build a project with Ink, so like an actual end user application or the infrastructure. If you see something missing in the infrastructure of what you're building, you're like, wow, there's some dev tooling here that would be really useful. Please let us know. This is something that not only do we have several RFPs for it, we don't always know what is missing in the ecosystem. That's really what the specific developers know, and especially if you're a developer perhaps coming from a different ecosystem that has that they're doing something cool and you would like to make a version of it. That's something that we are definitely willing to fund. If you've never done Web3 grants, we really try to make it as easy and dev friendly as possible. Everything is open, everything's on GitHub, or you can always email us grants@web3.foundation, and we generally respond very quickly. So yeah, we not only have worked a lot with helping to build out the infrastructure and dev tooling for Ink, but we are definitely looking forward and are willing to fund any teams that want to build projects on Ink or build more of this infrastructure.
Yeah, Bill, thank you so much. The support of Web3 Foundation is very important for the market. And we have today Dominic here also with us. He's head of engineering in Brushfam. And I guess Dominic could tell more about make deep dive into our infrastructure tools that will help developers to build.
Yeah, hi, my name is Dominic. So first of all, I would like to say that yes, in Inc. 4 is indeed a big thing, as it was mentioned several times on this talk, because it really allows new companies or teams that were afraid of Inc. not being in a stable release to go on the market, and also chains like the big chains like Aleph Zero or Astar, they were waiting for Ink stable release in order to have it on the mainnet. So I think that with Ink we will have the opportunity to see also more robust or better applications being implemented on these chains as WebAssembly and also Rust uh, allow us to create something more for like better applications. Yeah. So that's my input on Ink 4 and how we are making Ink better. So first of all, we are the maintainers of OpenBrush, which is the standard library for Ink, which contains the some PSPs and standard contract implementations, so you don't have to implement those basic or standard contracts yourself. You can simply import it from OpenBrush and use it. Also, you can adjust it for your logic, but it's supposed to make developers work easier. And I can say that to create a fungible token in Ink with OpenBrush, it takes 2 minutes at most after you configure everything. But yeah, so this is one thing. Also, what OpenBrush provides is some macros, since it's Rust and everything is possible. Basically, we can eliminate some boilerplate of which are needed in Ink with simple macro. So instead of 10 lines, which are necessary, for example, for creating a cross contract calls, you can simply use the open or some OpenBrush macros. The cross contract calls, it was just an example. I just wanted to mention why it's good to use OpenBrush for ink development and how it eases developers' life. Also, uh, we are developing the type chain Polkadot, which is a TypeScript wrapper which generates TypeScript wrappers for your smart contracts, and then you can use it in either in front end or in TypeScript integration tests. This can be a little more questionable since now Ink provides the end-to-end testing framework. Um, but yeah, that's we can still find some use case for this. And also I want to mention Salt to Ink, which is the simple tool, but I guess Sasha can also say something.
Yeah,
Yes.
today Sasha is also with us. He has real name Alexander, and like Green, he has a nickname Nameless. So welcome him, please. And he could tell more about. Sorry, Sasha, to interrupt you. I just want to tell people why your speech will be important, because we have huge problem when business, product, or developer want to move from Solidity to Ink, and we have decision for this problem, and this is open source and everybody could use it, and Sasha will tell more about it.
Yeah, thank you, Masha. I'm very excited to be here. From Brushfam, and Soltwin, it's our infrastructure product. So it's a tool for migration from Solidity to Ink. And even if you have a good experience in Rust, to rewrite your contract from Solidity to Rust and Ink, you need to have some time and some capacity to do it. But with Sol to Ink, you can do it really easy and fast from 5 seconds. Maybe some of you familiar with Solidity, so we have interfaces and contracts here. And in Solidity, it's work like we translate interfaces to trades and contracts to implementations. And I want to mention that SaltInc use power of OpenBrush. So if you use SaltInc, you also use OpenBrush. It's all in box. Uh, Also, with new release, the latest release of SaltInc, you can parse not only one contract, but you can parse a whole project. Yes, and you can read more in links on our Twitter and in our website.
Yeah, so
If you
to summarize the point here, the development that could have taken around a year will be able to be reduced to something around a few weeks or even few days with the next releases of Soto Inc.
Absolutely, yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
then.
just want to add here. I just want to add here. Sorry, sorry for this interruption. I just want to add here that this tool was created because we were translating or we were transforming an Solidity application into Ink, and it took too much repetitive actions to achieve such tasks. So it was like you need to reorder the parameters, some things, you need to change address to account ID and all of this stuff. So let's create a transpiler which will do it. So that's what we did. And with the latest release, for example, you can take the whole Uniswap code base, like periphery and core, and you can use Salt to Ink on it, and it will give you the ink code within a few seconds, actually. But it's still in the phase that the contracts created are not compilable, but everything should be in order. You have to adjust some things, but we want to make this the best thing that it can be. So it will be our focus for Soltwing. But yes.
When is the time frame of release of next release of Saltwing? I really want to try.
Yeah, the next release it's not on time frame yet, but we are still thinking about it, what it
Have
should
you tried?
include.
Yeah.
And
Have you tried the latest release? Maybe you haven't tried the latest.
No, I've tried maybe 3 weeks ago, so maybe it was not the latest.
Okay.
But I will give it a try with landing protocol to see how it handles.
Thank you, guys. Now I would like to make like a live discussion. So just raise your hand, take the mic, and tell your opinion. Because I have one interesting question. Now we are talking about like Infor, its features, its meaning for the ecosystem. But I think that's also important to talk about technical challenges that still need to be overcome to make Ink and Polkadot smart contracts superior to other ecosystems. So I would like to make a live discussion about this question. What do you think?
Sure. I guess I can start. There's one big issue that we're still facing that would really give Inc. a huge edge, which is XEM support. Um, the whole narrative around Polkadot is this idea of being able to communicate with other parachains, right? Allowing you to specialize in, and then talk to everybody else for what you're not specialized in. Allowing this from smart contracts natively would definitely give Inc. an edge over an ecosystem like an EVM based one, which has no concept of this native cross chain communication. Right, in the EVM world, you'd have to go through bridges, which are inherently insecure, especially most of the implementations we see out there today. That said, this being such a key feature, the reason, like, it's quite complicated, right? Like, from a technical point of view. So that, like, I would say that's probably one of the next key technical challenges that we're going to have to overcome.
Yeah. So if I may, so in my experience, a bulk of development effort when creating a new dApp or integrating a new product, like say let's quote unquote traditional business into a blockchain and integrating that, putting some of its business logic to chain and using that. When you start working on that, it turns out that a lot of hurdles are with integrating. It's not about writing smart contract. It's not about calling another contract, or it's about like how do you manage the deployment of a more complicated app that needs to deploy multiple subcontracts first. How do you update an app that is dependent on some of those smart contracts, and you need to do an update in a certain way? How do you read the data from a chain? So decoding an event, subscribing to events, doing in a way that is not that is reliable, that doesn't lose events when your server goes down for a moment. How do you pick up? How do you make sure that you are able to decode the events using the latest metadata of the contract, etc., etc.? So I think that there is a lot of work to be done here, although we have some of this covered with Subsquid, with Opce, etc., and some other Web3 granted projects. But yeah, I think like that. Writing a contract or contracts is a small portion of like a bigger picture. And right now, with the Inc. 4 release and the stable release, we can now focus on those peripherals that are required to when building this bigger ecosystem.
Yes, I think that's a really good point, because as we have not seen really production, ink in production, I think there was no really push toward those integration tools, even though there is a lot of question about having, for example, an indexer like a subscript and so on. But I think those tools are not like mature enough. There is not enough documentation, and we haven't seen like really a big team of several contracts saying that okay, like everything is clean and ready on this side. I think right now it's just like a script that we use using Polkadot JS working, but a bit hacky for now. And to add what Hernando also said, yeah, I think that for me, according to me and Astar, there is no really technical issue to regarding ink. I think it's really ready to be a really mature EDSL for writing smart contract, even compare to other smart contract chain. If I say like ink and palette contracts, and a lot of effort has been into writing in smart contract. So I think right now it's really having implementing things that are outside of ink or around ink that will be the next challenge.
Yeah, thank you guys for the great comments. I think if you are on a topic of the technical, I would call them potential. The thing we were recently discussing with Green was the cross contract calls problems related to the size of smart contracts that would be if we have lots of cross contract calls, and the possible Merkle tree optimization that would basically, after it's done, allow the developer to not think about to not take into account, well, to some extent, but to not take into account the restrictions of the blockchain development and just develop like you would normally develop an application. And to me, as for an engineer, I think that would be really great, and that would really differentiate and give a Polkadot ecosystem of smart contracts a really great advantage, because we know that Polkadot wasn't built in mind with smart contracts. Polkadot was purposed for the substrate and for the chains, but I think the potential is in the smart contracts world as well, and I think the combination, the result is in combination of those, and we can see even right now the successful cases of the combination with things like chain extensions. And you're probably aware that Brushfam is now heavily into the chain extensions. We have Open Brush chain extension, which so the chain extension is basically a thing that would allow you to write something on the contract level, but be executed on the chain level, which in my mind is beautiful because you don't have to launch your chain, but you can have the same performance as it would be executed on chain, and also you can communicate to the thing to the pallets on chain, and this all becomes interoperable. And I think this problem with with XCM cross contract calls can also be resolved using chain extensions.
Yes, guys, thank you. I think we have lots of work to be done in the future, but it won't stop us. Um, what other topic I would like to discuss? We have here two representatives of businesses in Ink market: a Star Network, which is focused both on AVM and WASM, and Aleph Zero, that focused only on Ink. So, guys, maybe you will tell us more about from a Star side why AVM and WASM, and maybe what's better. Maybe you already understand, and what you will be focused for in the future. And from Aleph Zero, why only Ink? Why you bet on this?
I think that's a really interesting question, and I don't want to choose between both, even though I'm into ink since 2 years. So of course, my personal opinion will go towards WASM and ink. But a more like on a how to say business perspective, it really depends on a lot of factor. I think the quote of gave in, saying that right now EVM is legacy and that the future is WASM, I think summarize well the point. And I think it's also interesting to leverage the maturity of EVM ecosystem, and this is what we are doing in Astar, and we want to see a multi-VM application. So if a team already have everything, all their contract in EVM, they can deploy it on Astar, and after create some Ink smart contract in WASM, so to have one portion existing of the application in EVM, and also one new application in Ink, and really to leverage both of the network. And I think that allowing this, we will see new innovative application, and also this whole industry, if it's Polkadot and even outside of Polkadot, is well integrated with EVM. So I think it will also be a bridge for liquidity or for NFT to the WASM VM.
Okay, so I guess it's my turn now. Yes, we did discuss this internally, whether to try and integrate Solidity virtual EVM into the chain while we wait for the ink release. The pros are, of course, that there exists already a tooling for that, for deployment, and there are many smart contracts written that could be easily redeployed on the chain. But this is we saw that also as a disadvantage, or rather than the other side of the coin, that we didn't want to deploy EVM only to attract these copycat projects that would just take this existing project on Ethereum and deploy it on Aleph 0. I don't mean to. I don't want to say that the all projects we don't want the Ethereum projects to for some of them to exist on Aleph 0 as well, but. We wanted to wait and for ink and attract these I don't know, maybe people that want to also build something original, not only the Solidity contract rewritten in ink. Yeah, so we are committing to ink because it's WASM, and we hope that in the long term, the being able to tap into this wider pool of talent, people that already know Rust or prefer Rust or don't want to learn Solidity, or that they will write their tools, their contracts in the language or of their choice. And with time, the lack of mature tooling for ink will change, and yeah, we'll get more of it than the now exists for EVM. Also because it's WASM and people can integrate the smart contract development into the existing pipelines.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, if you do see something, if you do see something missing from the current tooling in the ecosystem, and you want to help make Ink a bit more mature, then yeah, please let us know, and we can talk about grants for these.
Oh, that's perfect. You started really exciting topic about the future, of course. And the question is Ink ecosystem development ecosystem now ready enough for business to enter? So how many developers are in Ink now, and how many do we expect in like this year, in few years? So like the future is unpredictable, of course, but what do you think, guys? How do you feel? What we will have in like 1 year, for example?
I think right now we have around 15 to 20 teams that are using OpenBrush, and perhaps with the latest Polkadot hackathon, this number will significantly increase to somewhere around 30. Um, and these are all people that definitely use Ink with OpenBrush. And I think in general, the amount of just the developers, roughly the number of developers, I think it's around maybe 100, maybe 200. But honestly on the metric on how it would increase, it's hard to say. But I'm curious to hear on more what others have to say.
I have had an interesting talk today that not that much people, not that much development teams know about Ink or are familiar with Ink. I think it was some graphs, and I think half of the teams that were asked whether they are familiar with Ink, they said that they don't know about it, and I think it was around quarter that are familiar with it, and that around quarter which have used it before. So the conclusion was that I think this research was done by Gear, I believe, but I can be mistaken. I'm not sure now. But the conclusion was that a lot of teams are since it's a substrate based chain, or they have substrate based project, they want to implement their own palette, which may take a lot of time, and they want to specialize it for some use. But maybe a lot of these projects could be better just if they were a smart contract of, or if their chain, if they're building a chain with custom palette, if their chain just integrated smart contracts at first, that's like at first, and then maybe integrate some new palettes or upgrade the chain. But a lot of these chains which are trying to, or these teams which are trying to build their own palettes, customized palettes, would maybe be good with smart contracts. So my point is that maybe we can show that smart contracts exist on Polkadot and on substrate chains, and they are also easy to build, easy to use, and they get the work done. Yeah, so that's my input.
Yeah, so let me kind of elaborate on that point, because Ink is really flexible, like in combination with Substrate. Like you can use Ink as the main production way to build your application, but you can also have a hybrid approach. Maybe you have part of your application written in Ink, part written as a palette, and you can kind of cooperate in that way. Or maybe you have Ink as your prototyping engine, and then once your application gains traction, then you can go and launch your production palette and blockchain. And I think there's a lot of education to be done around that, like where Ink can fit into this different life cycle of product development. And I think that'll get people's ears perked up when they want to join the Polkadot ecosystem. They're like, I don't know if I want to spend 6 months to a year building a palette, but I still want to be part of this community.
Thank you, Pierre. I saw that you were going to tell us something.
Yeah, but I miss the thing now. I really follow what Dominic and Hernando said, that it will be a really good thing to bootstrap parachain to first being in Ink. And I think that some already existing parachain now could have been a smart contract as well, and leave parachain as for like really innovative projects. But speaking about numbers, I think there is way more and more users of ink, and we have been organizing in Astar the Toyota and Sony Hackathon. There is like 400 developer registering for Toyota Hackathon, and we are making it everything ready for Ink 4. There's a lot of doc to update, and it's great that OpenBrush is already updated, so people are ready to build. And also something that was really lacking was template dApps, because we only before there was only the ink example in ink repo. Now it's a separate repo, but still it was a really example. And what we wanted to do is to create template from existing well-known Solidity project like a DEX or lending or NFT marketplace. We have built Remark as well, and having it audited, and so it will like really be a great pavement for new team that want to join and to have a ready for production template, so they can learn really the production ready templates. And we have a grant to help that. So if there is some listener that want to build ready for production template, there is a grant. Markian, I think you're a curator in this grant. Sota from Asta is also a curator on this grant. So I hope that those templates will really trigger innovation for Ink.
Yeah, and Hernando is as well. Yeah, so I'm agreeing with you guys, and I think this is the great topic that you touched about the Wasm Bounty program. Um, I think on the topic of what is the next strategic step that would be really important for Ink is to show its advantage, and I think there are many things to show, and that is what this Wasm Bounty program is actually focused on. To build the base canary dApps that will demonstrate the ink potential in full. Because as you guys rightly mentioned, ink for now it was only talks. Yeah, we have some teams that are developing, but none of them are in production, and so it is not clear its promises. We have to see something practical, right? And we have to build showcases that will demonstrate the full potential of ink, and that is what we are planning to do in that bounty program.
Thank you, Markian. Thank you, guys. And I would like to add more here. Maybe like someone of you already knows me. I'm a brand marketing specialist at Brushfam, and like this is my field now. And I would like to highlight that it's extremely important to build the product, but it's also important to talk about these products, to let the community know, to let know about them outside of community, because to make Polkadot and Ink market successful and outstanding, we should bring more developers, more business creators, more creators like of anything here, and like to build really powerful ecosystem. And me personally, and I guess everyone here is really proud that we have such strong community that supported this talk, and that supported like Ink 4 release. And I'm really proud to see here Parity and Web3 Foundation and feel their support to all the community driven initiatives. And like I have one more idea to discuss. It's like a bit higher level, but let's think about will the release of Ink affect the growth of the main smart contract ecosystems like other ecosystems? So will be this step like the next step for empowering smart contracts ecosystems, not only Polkadot?
Yeah, I guess something I think about like as a developer of languages, really I'm hoping to show people that there are better ways to write smart contracts. There's a lot of pain points I see with Solidity development, and we try and take inspiration and see like, hey, we can make this better. And even if so we're hoping that people in other ecosystems, even if they don't end up using Ink, they can at least see some of the benefits of things like strong typing or leaning on the compiler for guarantees. that sort of stuff. So yes, I'm hoping that ink does have some sort of impact, even if people aren't using it directly. Although obviously, I do hope that people end up using ink in the Polkadot ecosystem to kind of further their cool ideas and initiatives.
I think they will use it if you make it so. And to extend what you're saying, I think, um, yeah, sorry, lost the thought. Okay, we'll maybe comment later.
Okay, for me, I think something that we've seen in Astar, like while checking other project, we have seen that the size of the contract when you build in release mode Inc. Is really one of the best, even if you compare WASM, other WASM EDSL. So I think that on this fact, if you compare EDSL, I think there is a really ink superiority here. But of course, an EDSL target a specific domain, which is here palette contracts. But we are not here to compare palette contracts to other smart contract environment. But still, even if you check ask, which is of course right now more like a proof of concept, but still the binary produced by ask are like 10 times higher than the new ink 4. And we all see that scalability and gas usage depends on the size of your contract. So this is really make ink one of the top EDSL in the whole blockchain space.
Yeah. So returning to the question asked, if the ink is the next step in the evolution of smart contract just in general, I think that's a very good question. I think we as a community have a responsibility to grow the industry and to not just create something that is an alternative, but create an alternative that is actually better. And I think Ink does a very great job at that. And I think, even extending my previous point on the showcases, I think there is a functionality, and not even tech, but actually user related functionality that is possible to do in Ink, which wasn't possible to do in Solidity. Maybe it was, but it was like, in theory it was possible, but in Ink it's practically possible. Now there are these kinds of problems that they Solidity is Turing complete language, so everything can be implemented. But the question is how it will work and how it will be implemented. Not every use case can be implemented in Solidity. And for sure, not every use case can be implemented in Ink because it's blockchain and it has some restrictions. But I think that Ink is a great step forward. Yeah. Yeah, so I think Ink is like the next level of abstraction, right? Because in the engineering world, if you think about it, the abstraction layer is very important. Firstly, we started from the zeros and ones, and practically everything was possible to be implemented. Even the hard, complicated interfaces, the Twitter and Facebooks, they all were possible to implement with zero and ones, but they weren't because it's added complexity. It's hard to write a program with zero and ones, and then the languages appeared from a simple to then complicated, and in this retrospective, I think Ink is a great next steps scaling up this layer of abstraction, giving different developer experience that will allow us to develop the better and best user application, because user experience is what matters and languages are there to serve for the user experience. And yeah, I think Ink is just doing a great job in that regard.
Yes, I fully agree. And I like the idea of responsibility for everyone in the community. Because not only key players are responsible for developing the market, but also like all of us. Everybody who is in the community is responsible to build, to promote, to create. And that's great. That's fantastic, I think. I see the request for Mike. Maybe, guys, let's discuss maybe some missed topics if you would like, and if we have finished, we can ask the audience maybe to add something, to ask some questions, etc.
Yeah, I guess something that I want to cover is just kind of like, if you're a developer listening to this, like maybe what are some of the next steps that you can do? So first, I would say is just play with ink. So we've got this nice documentation website, use.ink. So go on there, check out the tutorials, check out the docs. We put a lot of time and effort into them, so we're hoping that you get a lot of, like learning out of it as well. As Martin was talking about, we've got this upcoming bounty. So maybe you're like a little bit further ahead in your smart contract development career. You're maybe coming from like an EVM background, you want to get more into ink. So we'd encourage you to apply. I'm sure there's going to be marketing around that from everybody in this call. But that would definitely help you take your ink development to the next step. Maybe you want to build developer tooling. I think that's also super valuable right now, like especially things around testing, right? Making that developer experience really, really easy and seamless. And as Bill said, there's like grants that can be given out for that. So come up with some creative ideas, apply. And I'd also love to see some educational content come out of the community. Like, I don't think I've seen many people go on Twitch and build stuff using ink. But I think that would be a really valuable learning tool for everybody.
I just want to add on to what Hernando just said about use.ink. It really is an amazing resource. I was just playing with the latest version of it, and like starting from scratch, 15 minutes later, I had my own substrate chain running and deployed the Flipper smart contract and was playing around with it. So it's really good documentation. I highly recommend it. It's very easy to get started, very straightforward. So yeah, I just really recommend play around with ink a little bit if you haven't.
This is great. Yes, I can only agree on that. And please, guys, notice to everyone we have pinned a small map that we prepared with every resource that we feel like there is now in the ecosystem. If you have suggestions, something to add, we will add. We'll do a post describing it a little bit later after the call, but take a look, and I think this map greatly describes the resources that as a starting or even slightly down the road developer would need.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
I only want to add one thing, just to mention that I'm a developer and I don't read documentation, but I have to say that the ink documentation is really good. So definitely check it out.
That's definitely true, and guys, you gave so much of inspiration. And what I also would like to mention about Ink ecosystem map, that I hope that the next public talk, when we will come together to discuss Ink 5.0, on this ecosystem map, we will see your projects, your ideas, your infrastructure tools. That will be great, and I'm looking forward to it. I see the request for Mike. I will give it to you. Hello. You have something to add, or maybe you have a question. Hello, Irvin, you're online.
Hey guys, excited to see this amazing milestone. So, yeah, I'm a co-founder of Poker House alongside with Alex. Poker House is one of the vibrant communities in the Polkadot ecosystem. We were just down there in Argentina for the Polkadot Academy. So, from my end, on a technical perspective, Inc. has an amazing value proposition. But I think the rest of the developer community, as we kind of discussed, has yet to catch up on this. So I'm kind of curious and wondering, what are the initiatives and outreach strategies you guys have planned out to expand the adoption of Ink and also reach developer mindshare?
Yeah, I think this is a very good question, and I think that honestly we have to work on that more. But I'd like to let the Ink team comment, or maybe the other teams, Astra, Live Zero, Web3.
Yeah, so from our side. So I'm a developer, and when I'm looking at the ink, I look at it like a tool that I had to use, and I'm noticing things that I miss from past experience or working with other languages, non-blockchain languages, or in the context that are not necessarily blockchain, where the IT industry have been evolving for many years and people have built the tooling. So if from my perspective as a developer, I'm trying to think what other developers would like to see, what would make them come to Ink, to this ecosystem, what will make their life easier, because the my experience that the easier it is to build something, the easier it is to write it, the higher the chances are that people will do it. Like if writing a smart contract will be a painful journey that takes days, they will not do it. If it's gonna be easier, they will get the assist of the compiler, they will get the assist of a tooling or shorter feedback loops. Then they will come here instead of trying to do it on another chain. So we are now focusing more on building that tooling to like making the type safe, for example, Rust libraries built out of the metadata files, working on better indexers on the planning the RPC server, REST and GraphQL servers that build on top of what Subscript is building. These deployment pipelines I mentioned earlier, some ideas that we can borrow from other non-blockchain industries where the same problems had existed for many years and people have been trying to solve them. We can learn from their experience. So yeah, so to summarize, what we are now as developers at Aleph Zero trying to focus on is making this developer experience more pleasant, hoping that this will convince those developers to come and build on Substrate with Ink, because like building a dApp is no longer a mystic skill, but anyone can do it.
Yeah, it's a bit the same in Astar. I think there is two way. So the first way is when you never used ink. I think first you need user to use ink and play with it. We also have done tutorial for creating an NFT marketplace and a DEX if you want to be more advanced, and after to deploy it on testnet or livenet and make it fun. And also after there is also, if you want to be production ready and you're a more serious team, I think we have a technical documentation, because after all, Ink also rely on Substrate, also rely on contracts palette. And I think if you want to develop a dApp, you should know all layers. And of course, I think at Astar, I know Brushfam as well. We are really welcome to help you on Stack Exchange as well and in our Discord. So please reach out to us. We are really helpful community.
Yeah, and I know this is definitely something that's a challenge really for for any new language, that getting word out about it. And I'll let our distinguished compatriot from Parity give more detail on what they're doing. But Web3 Foundation, we have like specific things that we can and can't do. The big thing we're doing, honestly, to get the word out is sort of indirect, right? Ensuring that projects are built with Ink, that we have good example projects, things you can point to, right? Because I mean, as a former software developer myself, right, when I'd hear about some new language, my first thought was like, oh, who has already used this, right? Especially if I'm thinking to use this in production, I don't want to use. And so if we get more people working on it, I think it's sort of a self-reinforcing spiral. So that said, other material obviously is important, but I'll just say, from a Web3 perspective, Web3 Foundation perspective, that's really what we're trying to do in order to get the word out about Ink.
Yeah, and I guess to follow up, so a couple of things we're doing are they're also not exactly direct, but we're supporting some other ecosystem initiatives. So, for example, recently there was like I want to say it was like the Polkadot Global Hackathon, which wasn't an initiative started by like the Inc team at all, but we had some of our developers there helping out. I know there's a couple other hackathons that are upcoming where we will be lending a hand, right? And that'll help build that developer base of people that just want to tinker, but maybe that's where they start thinking about taking it one step further. And then also this WASM bounty that I mentioned earlier, that's also going to be pretty critical to getting the next set of developers onboarded onto Inc. and showing that hey, Inc. is ready for production applications.
That's awesome. I have another question really quick for Bill. Bill, from a Web3 Foundation perspective, do you see that perhaps at some point Inc. could be this abstraction layer for other smart contract languages besides Solidity, like going across maybe some Cosmos related stuff, Solana, and so forth?
So I'm not sure what you mean, since Ink isn't a abstraction over Solidity.
Well, no, it's the contract language itself, right? So behind the scenes, you can actually then transform it into other smart contract languages or make it compatible with other VMs, is what I'm referring to.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
I think yeah, you should.
Yeah, I'm gonna say so. When trying to build out a product, really what you want to do first is conquer your own pond, right? And I think first we got to show that within the Polkadot ecosystem, this language, this approach to smart contracts is viable. That said, once we've proved out that concept, yeah, I don't see a reason why Inc. couldn't be used with other WebAssembly backends. Like you will need to do, a bit of tuning to do that, but it's totally feasible. But definitely something that's way, way out far in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I can just say from our perspective, that's not really something we're thinking about at the moment. Is that far in the future?
Got it. Okay, great to hear from you guys. Thanks a bunch.
Thank you for your question. And also, we have Claudio here. Welcome, Claudio. Do you have a question or maybe something to add?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I hope you can hear me okay because I'm outside right now, so it's a bit windy. I just wanted to say I wasn't able to join from the beginning, so sorry if this was already asked. But I was just curious, is Inc. 4.0 mean that it is like enterprise ready? So can an enterprise actually come and build with the Inc. smart contract on 4.0, or will we need to wait for 5.0 before they can do that? And also to answer the other question that he had for Bill, I think Open Brush would actually solve that problem with Solidity developers coming to a substrate and building using Ink, right? Because I know that Markian told me that OpenBrush is one of the tools that you guys are building at the Brush Farm. That's gonna make it easy for Solidity code to be basically translated into Ink, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
Yeah, the tool called Solto Ink. Yeah, we were discussing this tool, and it will help a lot with migration from Solidity to Ink. And this tool using OpenBrush, that's right. And also, like that's becoming a joke. We are Brushfam, but Cloud is not to you. It's like for everybody because someone started the tradition to call us Brush Farm, but it's not like this. We are Brushfam, and we are here to build Ink ecosystem. So yeah, thank you for your questions and for your comments. And you also asked about does it mean that ecosystem is ready to build? Yes, it's ready. And that's why all of us are so happy to welcome Inc 4 on the market.
Perfect. Thank you very much. That's great to hear.
Thank you for coming. I would like to give like 1 minute more to the audience. Maybe someone would like to jump in and comment something or ask something. We will be happy. Hi, you're online. You can jump in.
So with the Ink 4.0, based on Rust and the Polkadot and Substrate all being based on Rust, if any of you guys could chime in on what, because our interest here is trying to onboard people, as you guys all want, and we're trying to help new beginning programmers, coders, that is outside of the spectrum of the computer science background, right? So all walks of life, and we're based in Chicago. And we are starting a physical community hub focused on Web3. And we are not maximalist. We're not focused on Ethereum, Polkadot, or Cosmos. We welcome all three of those, and we do focus on three. But the question is, since Ethereum started with Go language and Rust with the parity and the Go team separate, and they have a Solidity which supports that. And Cosmos started with the Go language first, and they're going to Rust, but they have a both Go and Rust language, right, for writing smart contracts and platforms and ecosystems. And can you speak about Inc. 4.0 and if there is any Go-based smart contract writing on Polkadot, and if not, why that is? Because we are trying to educate people, young people that are trying to get in, as you say, the next set of developers. And this is a long-term battle we're waging against, the capitalism, the hyper-capitalism that we're trying to move out into the decentralized world. And I think we need a broader kind of a general understanding instead of ecosystem specific, at least from our perspective. Thank you.
So I think there's actually sort of like two parts actually to answering this question in terms of languages. So first, in terms of like the actual Polkadot host, the actual software running the nodes. We obviously have the Rust version, but there are also multiple other implementations that have been or are being funded by Web3 Foundation, including a Go version by ChainSafe called Gossamer. But at a higher level, specifically for smart contract programming languages, one of the things that about like the Polkadot specification is that it's basically everything is WebAssembly, and I'm not familiar with all the details. Perhaps Hernando can go into detail about compiling down to WASM. And any restrictions on that, but in general, being able to use anything that compiles down to WASM should be usable as a smart contract programming language. And so I don't know if we have any Go specific ones that have focused in the Polkadot ecosystem, but we definitely have obviously we have Solidity, right, with Moonbeam, when Akala, Astar all support Solidity and the EVM. I think that's sort of like the fundamental feature of Polkadot is that you can have all of these different focuses, these different parachains that have these different approaches to smart contract programming. So while I'm not familiar specifically with the Go-based smart contract programming language, it's certainly not something that's totally off the wall and outside the realm of possibility.
I guess the follow-up question would be, a lot of our young developers, a lot of them are coming from Web 2 background. They have some backgrounds in JavaScript, website developments, and old PHP even for old folks. But they're just starting to learn Rust because Rust is much harder, generally understood, than Go, and a lot of them know more Go. And their question, and then there are more general people that has less background and technical backgrounds, and they are struggling to decide between Go and Rust as the language to start learning, which would take years to do that, and so it's a big commitment for the beginners. So um, I guess that really is the struggle for us as citizens, is to help us understand which way we should commit to educating these people, and we're open to both, of course, but why Inc. 4.0, I guess, is on top of our mind right now.
I will just say, Rust certainly has its share of idiosyncrasies, but looking at Inc., it's if subset might be the wrong word, but it's not as though you need to understand everything about Rust before you start working with Inc. It's actually pretty easy to get started. So I think you don't have to tell that your students or people in your co-working space or whatever. Oh right, yeah, you got to get through the whole Rust book before you even start to write a line of code here. If you go to the use.inc website, you can look at some examples and see things. It's actually relatively straightforward. And then from there, if you want to, you could always move forward into further Rust development, actually making palettes, making parachains perhaps in the future. But it really it's probably not as as bad as you're making it out to be. So I recommend everyone actually look at the use.inc website and just look through some examples. It's very straightforward and to me pretty self-explanatory, maybe the wrong word, but certainly relatively easy to understand.
Yes, that's true. In in Polkadot, we have lots of sources to get the information to just make the deep dive into Ink and Rust. And I have shared in the comments links to our community of Brushfam, and there are young developers or experienced developers even could ask questions, ask for help, and our team will help and answer. And also, Pierre mentioned that Astar has such a community. So you can join and you can advise young guys to join just to choose for start their way. So thank you for this question. It's perfect to have somebody from outside of Polkadot here. And yeah, guys, we are critically running out of time. So I see Steven, last question from you, and we will finish this public talk. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm just starting into learning Ink, and I was doing with the previous version. Is there anything I should be aware of, or should I just go through the documentation for the 4.0 version, or should I start with the 3.0? Any recommendation there for a new dev?
I think you can check Use Inc website. They have a really great art page where they describe how to migrate from Inc 3 to Inc 4 and really detailed on a technical level all new feature of Inc 4. So use.inc and search for Inc 4.0 migration.
Thank you so much for your question. And guys, we should finish.
Before,
Yeah.
if
Yeah,
moderator will allow me one small remark before we finish, I think that question from Irwan was really very great about the adoption, and I think this is should be for us as for the community one of our common goals for the future steps, as we see now that the technology and ecosystem tools is more or less ready. And while I agree to the points mentioned, and you all know that Brushfam is heavily committed towards the development ecosystem and towards improving the language itself, I also think it may make sense to launch some coordinated PR campaign in terms of both tweets, conferences, website support in terms of documentation and so on. So like educational materials, hackathons, etc. And I think that these things are already happening, but maybe it will make sense for us to do a coordinated campaign around that with all of the stakeholders there. And I think that WASM Bounty Creators is one such step. Where we have our powers combined and where the stakeholders have combined and working together to improve the ecosystem. And I think maybe we can do even more. So that is just the food for thought. Let's return for that in the coming days.
Yes, that's exactly what I wanted to say because Polka House means a lot for Polkadot ecosystem, and I'm looking forward for our future collaboration. So I really don't want to close this room because this public talk is really perfect, and I think we should I don't know, repeat it nearest time, not with the same topic, but just to bring Polkadot stakeholders and talk about some strategic things. So I'm excited. Thank you so much for coming, and just contact us if in case of some questions, collaborations, etc.
Yeah, see you soon, guys, and thanks for speakers to attend. It was a great talk.
Thank you all.
Yes.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.